If your goal is to create wealth and money in your life, there's no better way to learn than by listening to someone who has used specific principles to do just that. I created a poll a couple of weeks ago in which many of you expressed interest in learning wealth mastery. So I decided to reach out to my friend Abdul, who went from being completely broke to becoming a self-made millionaire. In this video, I will highlight 5 of his top tips that he used to do just this, and let him give you some of his personal accounts as to how and why he's been so successful. Tip number 1. Your why is a motivating factor. The reason you want to have money in your life will be a huge motivating factor as to whether you're successful or not. When it comes to manifesting money, or anything else in your life, you must have a burning desire in place as the starting line. This type of desire will often follow the rules of the pain-pleasure principle, which states that the distress related to a person's current lifestyle must outweigh any fear of making a change. In other words, one pain, in this case the pain that comes with having no money, must become more unbearable than any pain associated with what it takes to actually change those circumstances. Here's how and why Abdul made this change.
Okay, I used to drop my mom off every Sunday night to Greyhound station because she would work the week 200 miles away from the family. Okay, she used to work 200 miles away from the family. She would leave her husband or her kids, and this is a woman who's in her 60s. Okay, and I remember the look in my mom's eyes, and I remember looking at her, and she didn't cry, but like she was so sad that at her age she had to do this. And as a son, as the oldest son, I felt the responsibility on me to change that. You know, and I remember one of those nights, like after dropping her off, I just sat down in my car and like I just really thought about my life, and I made a promise to myself that I will do whatever it takes to succeed at my business so that my mom doesn't have to do this ever again. And you know what? A few years later, the picture's completely changed now. You know, just like last month, I sent my mom and dad, paid for their vacation, all-inclusive stay in Cancun. Mom and dad loved it. And, you know, now they're living in an amazing place. My mom only works like 10 minutes away from home because she wants to work. So it's amazing how much your life can change when you actually put in the work, when you focus, and when you have a super strong why that you're going to do whatever it takes to succeed.
Tip number 2, open your mind to the possibilities. In order to open yourself to a new reality, you must be willing to learn new things. In doing so, you expand your mental palette, which provides you with more options. By allowing the possibility that there might be other solutions, the mind begins to move past boundaries that might have once blocked success. Consistently learning and expanding the mind's field of information gives it much more to work with to assist you in creating what you want. And this is how many of the most successful people in the world have been able to easily adapt and create wealth for themselves.
First thing I want to say is, guys, you got to open up to the possibilities of what is actually possible. If you believe you already know everything, there's very low probability that you're actually going to get somewhere, which is a better reality. It's going to be difficult for you to get there because you don't even realize what is out there because you're just closed-minded. 82% of the wealth generated last year was by the top 1%. Why is this happening, guys? Why is that happening? Our mission here is to get more people to go from the survival mode and just worrying about their day-to-day to actually thriving. The biggest thing is open-mindedness, guys.
Tip number 3, tune into what you want. From the brain's point of view, there's a need to have our outer world match our inner world. This is why the brain will seek out things that match the information it has to work with, and point out people, places, events, and circumstances that match those things. This also gives a lot of reasoning behind the term like attracts like. When we tune into what we want, we tend to see more of that in our lives. The brain takes what we focus on and creates a filter for that. In other words, it filters your reality through the parameters that you give it. So when we say creating money is difficult, we invite that difficulty into our lives. And when we say it's easy to create money, we invite that, because the brain is seeking out ways to validate it. Listen to Abdul discuss this here.
The human body receives 11 million bits of information per second, yet your conscious mind is able to process only 50 bits per second. Your brain is receiving so much stimuli, you're receiving all this information coming in, yet you're able to process this little sliver of information, okay? And what do you actually process? You process what you're tuned to. If you believe the world is a terrible place, that's what you're gonna see. If you see people are cruel and there's no money out there, that's exactly what you're gonna see. It's the same thing with shoes, right? Think about like, if maybe you wanted the Adidas Yeezys, you know? And then all of a sudden you start noticing everyone having those type of shoes. But if you really open up, like we talked about, that's when things get interesting. So your expectations greatly influence your reality, guys.
Tip number 4. Surround yourself with the types of people that you admire and want to become like. When we surround ourselves with others who are living the type of life that we want to live, the brain will begin to reconfigure to match the information that comes from those types of people. If you're interested in creating wealth in your life, seeking out and surrounding yourself with people who know more about how to make this a reality is key. And here's why. When you're exposed to new concepts, that information begins to become more normal to the brain, and whatever seems normal to the brain is what it will seek to validate more of in your life, just like in the previous tip. In this way, you add to your pool of knowledge. And just like learning how to ride a bike or drive a car, the brain will begin to assist you in applying that knowledge and formulate ways that make that concept much easier for you to implement and run on autopilot.
You can learn from people that have done it before. It's definitely one of our secrets, is having the right people around you. If you want to create $1 million for yourself, you can as well.
Tip number 5. It's okay to begin making your own rules. Creating your own rules for life does take some reflection and conscious effort. If we begin to think about what the word rules means, we can see how confining that actually is. It generally means regulating, dictating, and controlling. But if you can start to challenge some of those rules that might be stopping you from reaching new heights and create new boundaries, you might be able to see how some of them are outdated and/or simply don't work for you. Listen here as Abdul explains how he changed his own set of rules.
I went from being a traditional kid that went to a good university, had good grades, good degree, good banking job. Okay, this is what the world told me and I did it. Okay, and this is what happened. I was laid off and I was left couch surfing on my friend's couch for 5 months. I had no income coming in, so I had a really good friend. He's like, dude, you can crash on my couch and you can figure out your stuff while you're sleeping on my couch. It was super cold in Calgary. It sucked. I had $40,000 in student loan, approximately $10,000 in credit card debt, struggling to pay rent, help out my family and all that. And that's when I decided, you know what? I'm going to stop following the traditional route and I'm going to do what's best for me. I'm going to do me, right? And that's what happened after a couple of years. That's me with my wife in Africa. And there, you know, that lion, like I was hanging out like 9 feet away from that lion and you can see I'm scared. So here I am, you know, like running my agency, traveling the world, traveled over 100 days in the last year. Maldives, Morocco, like Africa, Thailand, swam with the sharks in Maldives, had a blast. But I was able to do that because I was running my business while traveling, you know, and not having a boss to work with.
These 5 tips are the starting point to creating a life that is full of wealth and abundance. And interestingly enough, they can apply to anything you wish to create in your life.
A lot can change in a short period of time, guys.